This is my son, Luka Kinard. We're happy to be here on the Be Well blog. Luka has a story he wants to share.
Hi, my name is Luka. I'm 17 years old and I'm from High Point, North Carolina. And today I want to talk to you guys about my story with how I went through my own vaping addiction. When I first started vaping, I was 14 years old as a freshman in high school. And the way that it was presented to me was very harmless. They told me that if I wanted to get the front row seats and the bleachers to the football game, then all I would have to do is hit a Juul. And I absolutely was okay with it just because of the way they presented it to me. They told me that it was a very harmless thing. They presented it to me as no nicotine, better than smoking. They told me it was cheaper than smoking. What they really presented it to me was as vegetable oil. I remember being 14 and vaping at the time, telling everybody it's just vegetable oil or it's just water vapor. Everything's fine, go out and do it. I'm 17 now, and I realize that vaping vegetable oil is not a thing. But even if it was, why would you want to do that? There was really nothing that you would get out of that. But it was a very silly belief I had just because of the misinformation that I received. For the first month of high school that I was doing it, it really wasn't something I would say was an addiction. It was just something I would do socially with people. It was a very easy way to go up to a group of people I didn't know and have something in common. So we already had a connection and already had a way to communicate. So that's what it was for the first month. It was just a way to get friends. But very quickly after that, I started to notice that this is becoming an addiction, but I never admitted it to anybody. I was actually very stubborn at the time. And, I used to be a straight A student, and I used to play 2 sports, and I used to be in Boy Scouts, all really great and healthy things. But unfortunately, after that month of high school, I started to decline very fast. I became a failing student, dropped out of high school. I quit sports. I quit going to Boy Scouts. I quit clubs and extracurriculars. So everything I had been building my whole life really to get into college and have a great, successful life, I had really just thrown away. And I simply just thought of it as I'm just being a teenager. Never did I ever want to admit or even think it's because I'm addicted. I didn't want to put the blame on Juul. So I started to do this all throughout my freshman year. And my personality changed quite a bit. I used to be a very happy camper, as I used to be called in elementary and middle school. But I became very angry. I had a very big resentment against the world. I used to think that it was the world versus me and me versus the world. And I really just didn't enjoy even myself. I was very uncomfortable with my own skin. So I constantly was just shutting people out of my life. And it didn't matter if I had known the person since the time we were on a swing set in elementary school, or I didn't care if it was somebody that I had just known in high school, or any authority figure I didn't want to listen to either. I became really aggressive, not only towards people, but also inanimate items and objects. I was breaking computers, laptops, chairs, tables, windows, glasses, dishes, everything and anything you could think of. I was really breaking during these outbursts of when I didn't have the vape. So fast forwarding into my sophomore year of high school, and I'm doing the exact same thing, just completely worse. My highest grade, my first semester of my sophomore year was about a 58, which was pretty bad. It's pretty bad. And my lowest was a 7. Don't recommend anybody doing that. But still, at that time, I didn't think there was anything wrong. I would always just say, I'm just being a teenager, just leave me alone, or just shut up. And that was quite blatantly what I would say until September of 2018, when I had a 6-minute grand mal seizure, which was from vaping. And that was super scary to me because I've never had a seizure in my life before. And when you go through a seizure for your first time with no prior experience, you really don't know that you've been through it. You don't really remember anything. You just wake up and you feel very dizzy, very out of breath. You feel very dehydrated. You have a headache, pretty weak. I really had no clue the significance of a seizure. But it's very serious. A grand mal is the most serious type of seizure you can have. And for 6 minutes is quite a significant amount of time. But I was so scared. But people were always asking me, how are you feeling? What's going on with your seizure? And, High Point's a pretty big city. It's about 100,000 people in it. I could walk the sidewalk. I could be outside mowing the lawn. I could be with my friends. I could be out in public with my parents or school, wherever it was. And somebody was asking me, and it did not matter how kind they were to me. I would just tell them to shut up and leave me alone. And it wasn't because I didn't appreciate them. It wasn't because I didn't value them or realize that they cared about me. It was just simply the fact if I hated myself, so why would I ever want that attention on the person I hate the most? Didn't want it, so I just kept on pushing it away. And now it's 2 months later, and it's October of 2018. And my mom and my dad, they text me and they say, Luka, come downstairs. We got to talk. It was a Friday night. At that time, you guys could probably guess what I'd be doing on a Friday night. I'd probably be going out, probably vaping, probably hanging out with friends I shouldn't have been doing, which is very much what my plan was. But I got down to that couch, and my mom and my dad, they told me, Luka, pack your bags at 3:30 in the morning. We're going to go to the Raleigh airport, and you're going to go to rehab in California for 8 days. I said, that is not what we are going to do. That is what I did. That is absolutely what I did. And, it was definitely not a fun experience at all. Having to be on an airplane for 7 hours already. Airplanes are uncomfortable, but sitting next to the person sending you to rehab, my mother, was a little bit uncomfortable. But then we get off the plane, we hit the highway, we get to rehab. Super uncomfortable also. It's, thankfully in rehabs, or really any rehabilitation facility, they really do try to make you feel at home and comfortable. But no matter what, where you are and it's not home. You're not going to be as comfortable as you could be. And you're definitely not comfortable with yourself at all. Yeah. Especially for me, when you hate yourself and you're in a facility like that, you are forced to sit in your own skin. And that is just so uncomfortable and almost unbearable. But I was in there for 39 days, not 8, as you told me. We advocate for people not to vape. We also advocate for people not to lie. So Mom,
I lied.
I hate to say it, but you lied. But it was a great one because she told me if I did not go on that plane that they would have cops escort me onto the plane. I was like, I'm not going to have that. But she also knew that 8 days was a lie. But she knew I would have never gotten on if I had known I could have been there. When I first arrived, they told me I could be there for 35 to 45 days or maybe 90. And then if that wasn't working out, we can go somewhere else for 6 months to 18 months. And that was drastic. That was definitely a huge 180 from 8 days.
Yes. Sorry.
But after those 39 days, I've been clean ever since the night I left, which is nearly almost 2 years.
You were forced to quit cold turkey.
I was forced to quit cold turkey. A lot of rehabilitation centers, unfortunately, allow people to use nicotine. And then if they're trying to stop nicotine, a lot of times they'll just say, oh, give them a patch. My rehab was absolutely not like that. In fact, they really didn't have any supplements for anybody going through withdrawal because there were kids there for other substances, whether it be an opiate or a narcotic or whether it be alcohol or weed or, for me, nicotine. There was not a single supplement for withdrawal. They did not believe in it. They strongly believed in quitting cold turkey.
Yeah, well, it worked. We're very fortunate to have him back. Like millions of other parents, we never saw this coming. We thought our new high school freshman was going in with the best foundation. He was a Boy Scout. He was in sports. He was straight A student. He had new friends that he just met at high school orientation. We were excited for a new experience and an exciting high school career. We thought school would be easy for him too. But it quickly changed. It probably was just 2 weeks in when we noticed the difference. I think we noticed the difference before Luka noticed the change. And we noticed it in just massive, explosive incidents over something small, whether it was you need to come home at a certain time because that's your curfew, or you can't go out because you haven't done your homework, or you've got a test tomorrow, something. And, just one little thing like that would cause him to destroy our house, our property, our furniture, kicking in doors, denting the car, destroying things with a baseball bat. We had never seen that before. We had no idea where it was coming from because who expects that all of a sudden overnight? But we didn't immediately connect it with nicotine. I had never heard that nicotine could cause this kind of behavior in a child. I thought he woke up with an adolescent onset psychiatric illness. We had no clue. We were just totally blindsided. So we sent him to a therapist, hoping that she could get through and have him talk and maybe figure out what was making him angry, because we had no idea. We had absolute nothing, no idea what was going on. And the therapist worked with him some, and then, he was still angry. There was no change. And I started putting two and two together. At first I thought, oh, it's nicotine withdrawals. And then I realized, well, he's not withdrawing because he's not quitting. And there were more and more Juul pods everywhere. And I started reading up on what nicotine does to kids. And just based on what cigarettes did to adolescents, that was scary. It causes increased impulsivity. It causes ADHD symptoms. It causes cognitive behavioral problems. The kids can't understand what they're reading or hearing. And then I started little tiny bits of information about Juul started coming out, talking about the massive dose of nicotine. And then it started to become very clear. He had so much nicotine in his system, his brain was being scrambled. The symptoms of nicotine, like what cigarettes did to kids, you could times that times 100. It was so much worse. And Luka, I don't think mentioned, but you should go back and mention how much nicotine he was using.
Absolutely.
How much nicotine is in a Juul pod.
So I was using quite a bit. So one Juul pod is the equivalent to 20 cigarettes worth of nicotine, which is about a pack of cigarettes traditionally. And I was going through 4 Juul pods a day. And, if we do the math, it's about 80 cigarettes worth of nicotine a day. And sometimes it would be more. Sometimes it wasn't just my own personal use of 4 pods. Very often, I was the person at school that would go up to everybody's cars. I was the same kid that would go up to everybody at lunch or in the hallways and ask them for a hit. I was the same person that would do it in the bathroom. So it wasn't just on top of that of me using my own 4 pods a day. It was also I was going off of everybody else. I've got a lot of flack for that, though. I will definitely say that a lot of people are skeptical, and they'll say, like, "There's no way you could have done that. That's not even scientifically possible." And then a lot of people are like, "Well, what did you think was going to happen? You're pretty dumb for doing that. Like, nobody does 4 pods." But you would be surprised by the amount of kids, or just the amount of stories I've heard personally after speaking about my story for the past 2 years almost, of just how many people have been at the same level as I was, or even worse. And of course, people know that stuff can happen to them. We know that it's not the greatest thing for our bodies, but it's just one of those things where it's not really, you're really thinking about your body because you already don't care about it, just doing it already. So when I hear that flack of, "Oh, you're so stupid," it's like, well, you're right. I was definitely not using my head, but I also didn't care to because I didn't care about myself.
I don't think anyone really realized what such a large dose of nicotine would do to a kid's brain. Like I said, they knew what cigarettes did, but they didn't realize the kids were targeted with such a massive dose. I don't think any human has ever been tested with that much nicotine. 80 cigarettes in a day, you can't smoke that many cigarettes. So now we know what happened. But when he was in therapy, I started to catch on to putting 2 and 2 together. I told his therapist that it was the Juul that was causing him to act this way. And she told me to back off, that he needed Juul for his anxiety. And we would go back and forth. I'd tell her, but he didn't have anxiety before he started juuling. He didn't have this anger before he started juuling. And she'd say, well, you just need to back off. So, that was very frustrating. And we continued on. She suggested, since we couldn't have a conversation with him without him exploding, she suggested a family therapist who could act as a mediator. So my husband and I took him in to family therapy. And with the therapist walked in and asked Luka what he was on. She could see him about to explode just because he was there. And she suggested we see a psychiatrist. And at that point, I was open to anything. I'm not medicating him, but I wanted someone's input who could tell me how to get this kid off of Juul. And we walked into the psychiatrist's office and they asked me, well, what do you want to put him on? And so that kind of dumbfounded me. I didn't know what to put him on. I really didn't want to put him on anything. I wanted him off Juul. But they suggested Wellbutrin that has shown with some adults to help them gives them the ability to curb their impulse to smoke. And we tried that for 3 months, and it quickly became apparent that, well, I wasn't thinking things through to begin with. In order to use something to quit, like a patch or a medication, you have to have the will to quit. Luka didn't. Absolutely. He saw absolutely nothing wrong with what he was doing and had no intentions of ever quitting. So no amount of medication or patch or Nicorette gum would help. So, then he had the grand mal seizure. And I thought, okay, this will scare him. And maybe a doctor could talk some sense into him and scare him enough to he'll want to quit and maybe make an effort. Well, the pediatrician asked him if he was interested in quitting, and he said no, he didn't see a problem with it. So that was the end of their conversation. The neurologist who we saw told him to get more sleep. The cardiologist told him that this chest pain and cold sweats were probably due to chest wall inflammation from vaping. So that was the closest anyone came to, acknowledging that Luka's problems could be due to nicotine. The insurance company ended up being my friend in this whole battle. It shocked me because usually you have to battle your insurance company to get treatment. But I called them. I told them my child has a substance abuse problem. He needs inpatient treatment, and the substance is Juul, and they agreed. So they gave me referrals of treatment centers, inpatient hospitals, anything possible. And I started calling. I called everyone. I even called outpatient places. But no one would take him because it was nicotine. Many of them, including some that were just for youth, actually allowed their clients to smoke and vape because they considered it a lesser addiction or a safer alternative to what some other addiction, a trade-off addiction, would say. Or they also considered it a coping mechanism, nicotine use. They didn't understand that it had gone over into substance abuse. And so I just continued searching surrounding states, going further and further west. And finally, the closest thing I could find was in California. And they are loaded with adolescent treatment centers there. And they were almost all that I talked to willing to treat him and treat nicotine abuse or nicotine addiction the same as any other substance abuse. And we wondered up until the minute I dropped him off if we were doing the right thing. But when at the end of it, he thanked us for sending him, we knew we did the right thing. And we're very, very fortunate to have our son back and very proud of him.
I don't know. It wasn't something when I was going through whatever, kind of sit there like, oh, I wish I could have my old self back. Because it was like I had really just forgotten what it was like to be happy at that point. Honestly, I knew I wanted to be happy, but I didn't know what it looked like anymore. I had no clue. And even when I had been happy before, I didn't know. I just couldn't remember. Slowly when I got out of rehab, it changed. Unfortunately, even when you get out of rehab, you kind of need rehabilitation just to get out. It's a process. When you're gone from normal society for that long, especially as a teenager and you're in high school or really any type of schooling, there's a lot that goes on when you're not there. So I had to just be walked into it. It's kind of like baby steps, really. And it was very frustrating. I will say that I was definitely happier. But I really think the two biggest sources of that happiness, one was obviously sourced from, I'm feeling better. I'm completely clean. And then the second one was I was just so happy to be free, not being told where I could not go in a building, not having somebody watching me, not having to worry about asking to use the bathroom or get water. It was a great feeling to have those just simple privileges back. So that's where a lot of my happiness was definitely sourced. But as time developed, I think just along with anybody definitely growing up as a teenager. But unfortunately, the effects of, substance abuse after you're going to have some mental health issues afterward. You're kind of down on yourself a lot. And for me, it influxes. There's times where I absolutely feel downright amazing about myself. And there's some times where I feel like I'm absolutely not enough. I just got to work harder. But it's all about your attitude. Absolutely. It's like when you feel like you're not enough, what are you going to do to start feeling like that? Not feel like that. So
recovery is a lifelong process,
yeah,
isn't it? And it gets easier at times, but there are also times when it's harder.
And I remember at the beginning of my recovery, or even sometimes even now still, it's kind of hard to come to terms with even that thought of, oh, this is the rest of my life. I remember in the beginning, it was just so overwhelming to think like every single day I'm going to have to go through this frustrating moment where I can't use, or this frustrating moment where there's somebody scrutinizing me for being clean, when I'm struggling to being clean. It's definitely an overwhelming thoughts to have about this is what's going to be your life. But I will say, just because your life isn't enjoyable at that time, it doesn't mean your life's never going to be enjoyable. It just means that you're going to have an added challenge that other people won't. And a lot of people also do have the same challenge. It's just all about how you look at it, really. So what do I do to fulfill my addiction? There are a multitude of things. It really just depends on where I'm at and the availability of what I can do. But one thing I consecutively do is music. You can have that anywhere. You can listen to music anywhere. It doesn't matter if it's your phone. It Doesn't matter if it's radio. You can hum out loud. You can hum in your head. You can sing lyrics to a song in your head. Music is always with you.
You can blast it in the shower too, apparently.
Absolutely. That's the favorite place to blast some music. So that's definitely something that I keep around with me, is definitely listening to music. Sometimes I write. Sometimes I go for walks. I go for walks quite often, honestly. Sometimes I skateboard. Sometimes I'll go out and hang out with friends. It really just depends on what headspace I'm in. But I always try to stay busy. That is the biggest thing I will say. Your biggest key to success and staying clean and sober is not being complacent. Always stay busy. Even if you're not enjoying what you're doing, just stay busy. It's really going to deter you from even being able to use and just even being able to think about using. All those things that I mentioned, like, for example, skateboarding and walking, I have been doing that since I was a little kid. I've always enjoyed both of those. I definitely skated a lot less when I was using, just because I really didn't have any motivation to do anything. But unfortunately, a lot of the things I used to enjoy or still enjoy, I just didn't when I was using. It was also bad association because, unfortunately, with me, I would also sell vapes to people, or I would oftentimes walk or skateboard to people's places to go and buy it from them. So my mom often thought, my son's on his skateboard, where is he going to sell or buy? So that was often, like, for me, like, I just had negative association with skateboarding at that point. I just quit completely. And same with going out for walks. So
I never understood why he needed to take his backpack.
Yeah, for my speaker for music. But
okay.
No, it was always, I did enjoy it, but then there was times where I just felt so trapped to the point where I couldn't do it. And that's nobody's fault. That's 100% my fault. It's not my mom's fault for making me feel trapped. Maybe just a little bit, but it was definitely a lot of the things I've always enjoyed. I stopped enjoying just because I didn't feel like I deserved to enjoy them.
So you would share with teens that it's important to continue to do what you enjoy. Find something you enjoy.
Absolutely. My biggest message to anybody who's a teenager, not even if you're using or if you're thinking about using this, it just goes for in general. Find something you like to do and try new things. I'm not saying try new drugs or any. Please don't mix up my words. What I'm really saying is just try new things. You know, this world is way too big just to be limited what you're doing right now. You know, yes, there's sports. There's a lot of sports. There's video games. There's a lot of video games. There's music. There's a lot of music. There's reading. There's a lot of books. You know, there's so many different opportunities.
Camping.
Exactly. Camping,
outdoor
fishing,
recreation.
hiking. But this world is just way too big, guys, for there just to be one or two things you really like. So I really want you guys to expose yourself to as many things as possible, because it's going to make you guys so much healthier, happier people. And also going to make you a lot more interesting because you have all these new experiences and you're really going to benefit from it.
Yeah. And I think it's also important for kids to remember to be themselves.
Absolutely. Be yourself. Guys, it sounds so cliche just to say be yourself, because I know, I trust me, I'm 17. I hear it all the time. It was one of those first things where I heard it, when I would hear it, it would go in one ear and right out the other, you know, but really be yourself. And the reason I say that is, you know, who are you fitting in for? Is if you're in middle school, is it for the people that are in middle school you're going to see for 3 to 4 years and split? And then high school, 4 years and then split. And then college, you're really not going to see them very long. It's definitely something I would say, who are you trying to fit in for? That's the first thing. And then the second thing is, once you start to do everything else that everybody else is doing, you are just like everybody else. What is special about you? This comes off as very rude, but it's just the honest truth. If you're just like everybody else, I'm not going to feel very inclined to want to be around you. I'm going to go for that person. I'm like, wow, there's something unique about you. So be yourself, because you are absolutely unique and one of a kind, and nobody can take that from you but yourself when you start to be other people. So just be yourself.
So for teens who maybe would like to try quitting, but are worried about how their friends will react, what kind of words of wisdom can you give them? Because every teen wants to be included and have friends. And if they're worried about losing their friends, that's a deterrent to quitting. I
would say the first thing, which is, I'll tell you guys right now, this is not what you want to hear at all, but this is what you need to hear. What type of friend do you have if they're not going to be your friend, or it's going to deter your relationship with them because you're stopping a bad habit? In what way are they bringing out the best in you? Because that's what friends do. It's not because you guys do things in common. Friends bring out the best in each other. What are they doing to support you through that? So definitely I would sit there and say, you know, reevaluate that friendship. But also, I know it's scary and it definitely deters people. But I want you guys to realize people come and go in your life. There are going to be some people that are going to be your friends your entire life. And that is absolutely amazing. I applaud that. But the sad reality is that, unfortunately, sometimes friendships may only last a year and we last 3 or 4 years. You never know when a person can come and go. So you can use that and definitely cherish your relationships you have now, but you can also use that and say, hey, if they're not really supporting me in what I'm doing, maybe they're not the greatest of friends, and maybe I can look somewhere else, or a friend can find me.
I think that's powerful coming from a teen.
Absolutely.
Because when parents tell our kids that, we don't know what we're talking about, we don't understand, but Luka's lived it, and it's true.
Oh yeah, I've lived it, and it is. I'll tell you guys, it's not fun, and it's not easy. I'll promise you guys that it's not anything you ever want to hear or you don't want to deal with. But if you want to be the happiest person you can be, you gotta let some people go if they're not helping you out. Absolutely. I've had times where I've had to sit down and literally write every single person that I know on pen and paper, first and last name, and then go through a list and be like, I don't really know what type of friend. Are they a best friend? Are they a good friend? Or are they just somebody I associate with? And there was times where I would sit there and I'd be like, oh my gosh, I am only close with 4 out of these like 30, 40 people. Really, really think about.
It's quality that's important, not quantity, not the number of friends.
It's less stressful. I'll tell you that. I at one point was a very, I wouldn't say popular, but I would say very well-known person in my area especially. And I was always social. I was always out doing something. And I will tell you what, it is a lot less stressful when you have less people in your life. And I'm not feeling your cold-heartedness and saying, I don't want anybody. But what I'm trying to feel to you is it is okay to have less friends than more friends, as long as you've got good friends.
Exactly. That's what counts.
Yeah.
So for parents, we've got some things that we can share with parents. I made a lot of mistakes. We tried punishment, grounding him. And then when you think about it, if you're dealing with an addict and they can't help it, what's punishment going to do? But just make them feel shamed, feel bad about himself.
Guilty.
We also tried bribery, and that didn't work either, though.
You know what? I will say it right now. I don't remember the bribery. I don't think I ever received a single dime for quitting.
Because you didn't quit. So, but anyway, be there for your children. Listen to them. Don't shame them. Don't judge them. They were targeted for addiction by, big tobacco. So, we didn't see it coming, and neither did they. So they didn't realize they were guinea pigs. So to be punished, as far as what else could a parent do to help their kid? Besides find, a good therapist or counselor who deals with addiction, talk to the pediatrician. I tell everyone to try everything. Not every kid needs to go for inpatient treatment like Luka did. He was an extreme case, but there are other extreme cases we've since found. But, if you try everything, somewhere along the way, something might work. There's free quit programs online or through texting. There's a million different ways things you can check into and try it all. That's what we tell parents.
I think one of the biggest things for a parent, my advice would be, is that relationship with your child. I know you definitely don't want to hear how to parent from a 17-year-old, but I will definitely say that relationship is important. It's just all about how you communicate. I would definitely say when my mom would sit there and say to me, you did this, I caught you doing this, the first thing I'm going to think naturally, just as a human, it's just fight or flight. And I'm going to say, no, I didn't.
Didn't matter that he had a Juul in his hand.
It doesn't matter if I know that I'm wrong. I'm just going to say, no, I didn't, because that's my natural reaction. But as soon as you start to say, hey, I feel like this is going on. Can we talk about what I've figured out and what's going on? I'm going to feel so much more inclined to talk to you if you say we. It's just little things like the I's and the we's instead of the you's. But also reassure your kid that, yes, they're making a mistake and you're incredibly worried, but also let them know, one, you love them. And two, that just because they're a mistake does not mean that they are a mistake. And just because they are making mistakes does not mean that they can't come back, because they absolutely can. They just really need that reassurance.
And also, my advice for parents whose kids may have just experimented or who think their kids aren't vaping and this doesn't apply to them, this actually does apply to everyone, because if it's not your kids doing it, it's your neighbor's kids, your siblings' kids, it's someone you know, your nieces, nephews.
It's your kids.
There's so many kids doing it that, it applies to everyone. Everyone needs to help with this. And, if your kids are experimenting and you don't think it's a big deal, it is a big deal, because even if they're just experimenting, no amount of nicotine is good for the developing brain. So we found that out the hard way too, because Luka went from being a straight A student to an F student really quickly.
Change that around. I'm a good student now. I'm an AB student, with the exception of a C and but we get past that.
So, you were forced to quit cold turkey. What kind of support would you have taken, or would have been helpful to you?
At the time, I don't know what could have helped me, honestly. So I was just so far gone into being stuck.
You had to be forced.
But I think more than anything, not just in terms of my addiction, I think what would have just helped me as a person, really, and probably would have affected everything, is if somebody had, placed, not literally, or literally, placed their hand on my shoulder and just said, "Hey, you got me. I can be a rock." That's what I really needed, was just a rock. And a rock to me was somebody that can tell me the truth. It doesn't matter if it's a positive or a negative truth, but they can do it in a way where it's not showing anger and it's not feeling judgmental. And that was the biggest thing I needed. And I'm very fortunate that my parents did help me out. But at the time, I refused it because it's not what I wanted. And I guess hearing it out loud, it almost sounds selfish of me to say I didn't get what I want. I kind of sound like a brat. But really, though, more than anything, all I wanted then was just somebody that I could feel comfort with. And I really didn't have that at the time.
No.
No.
We were in such despair and so desperate for help and so absolutely distraught. We actually thought about leaving the country, taking Luka to England, where Juul was illegal, and having him finish high school there. We could not think of any way to get him off of it.
I would have much rather done that than go to rehab, because England sounds nice.
Yes, but that's longer than 8 days also. I don't think for any adolescent, nicotine should be a coping mechanism or a trade-off addiction. And I think it's best to just wipe out the addiction entirely instead of trading for a new addiction. If you're letting them continue the cigarettes or vaping down the road, that's going to kill them too. So,
absolutely. So I definitely say seek to understand to be understood. That's the biggest thing. Absolutely. I think it's just a relationship with your patients and how you want to be. Just as you would want your relationship with a friend, have the same relationship you would as a therapist. That's very important.
And understand that this is a new substance abuse. This isn't a coping mechanism. We didn't know if we would get Luka back. We didn't know after, he stopped doing Juul, what kind of damage was done to his brain. So, it's just taken time.
For sure. I think the biggest thing for me that helped me even want to be, gosh, it sounds so rude when I say it, but just even to be a part of or even work on having family again, was everybody dropped their judgment. Because our family had never had addiction, to my understanding. So to them, it was kind of taboo. It was very taboo. Honestly, they were kind of thinking this is not us. This makes us look bad. And all that was dropped when I was out. It was full support. I think that can go into a lot of different situations, not just in terms of my addiction. I think for anybody's family, if you want to, bring a family back together, drop all your judgments. Just because it's not how your family is, or it's not something that your family does, doesn't mean it's not your family still.
Right. Yeah. Well, we realized when Luka was in treatment, and I realized here he is working really hard to turn things around. How can we be embarrassed and not tell, we didn't tell very many friends and family because we thought they would judge us. And, we realized we're proud of Luka. We need to stop acting like we're embarrassed by him. And
that was definitely.
Yeah, I feel really bad about that, but I think it's actually very normal. And every parent I hear from, experiences the same. You feel like a failure. You feel shame. You never expected this to happen to your family. No one does, though, because no one sees it coming.
There's times where I felt embarrassed just by my parents because of being sent to rehab. I remember prior to California, I remember my mom threatening me about California. I thought it was just an empty threat. I thought she was. I already thought she was crazy. But then I was like, okay, you're really crazy. She just threatened me to California. I called up my friends and I was like, yo, like my mom is bugging. Like she is absolutely crazy. And then I get sent to rehab. And oh my gosh, it was just, that was the final moment. And that was when I was like, this lady is just nuts. And when I got back out, everybody was saying it. Honestly, I hate to say it, Mom, but a lot of people do like,
it's okay.
What's going through your mom's head? Like even people's parents were saying it to me too. That's definitely changed around now. I will say is the same people saying all that have definitely changed their attitudes around. But yeah, when I got out, it did not help me to get out to be sober. When hearing people say, "Dude, your mom's crazy," like I definitely think that what my parents did ultimately saved my life. I think it was definitely one of their best feel good moments as a parent.
None of it was feel good. I got to
the reward was
well when you thanked me.
Yeah, it was a reward. I think it was a reward, right? It was a pretty joyous reward.
Yeah, we were happy to have our son back.
I think it was definitely something that was so beneficial to my life. I wish they had never done it because I wish I had never gone to rehab. It was not something I ever want to do again. It was not fun, but I will say thank you because I definitely needed it.
And where would you be now if you hadn't?
I would be dead. I would be dead, or I would be in jail. 100%.
Maybe more people would get help.
Absolutely.
If it weren't something that had to be hidden behind closed doors.
I also think that when you're clean, you start to realize a lot of the same people that you would used to think, oh my gosh, they'll never like me, like they'll judge me because I'm an addict. Or a lot of times you'll go back and be like, oh my gosh, how did I not see it? They're doing everything I was doing. They just didn't share about it. You really realize a lot of people are addicted, especially when you're clean, because you're actively trying to stay away from people. You kind of already know the scenario because you've been through it. And you kind of look around, you're like, I am in a world full of addicts. And it's gloomy, but it's awesome that you can look at it and say, this is something that there's a lot of hope for. Because there's a lot of people in this world that also aren't addicts. So that's a lot of power too.
The thing about becoming an addict is it can happen to anyone. You never see it. No one ever sees it coming. There's an invisible line. You don't see a line and think, if I cross that, I'm going to be an addict. It sneaks up on people. And so, with Juul and vaping, it's gotten kids into a pattern where it's going to lead to other things. They already determined, studies show that cigarettes were the gateway to other drug use. Well, now that the stronger, more potent, easily addicted nicotine salt concoctions have come out, that's vaping is the gateway, not the gateway, I'm sorry, the expressway to other drug use. It's a higher tolerance. It's not lower on the pole with cigarettes. It's higher, and kids are going to need more.
I think my saddest thing about addiction in general is the way that treatment facilities, just treatment in general, unfortunately, has treated nicotine. A lot of times they say nicotine is a useful tool or coping skill for quitting other substances. Yeah, you're right. That's a coping mechanism. Not healthy at all. It's just a trade-off for an addiction. It is so frustrating because I go to Alcoholic Anonymous meetings. I think it's just great, not even because of alcoholism. I think it's just great stuff to use in general. Or you can apply that to any addiction, really. And it is so annoying going into a big just cloud of smoke. It is so sad to me that we have people that have put their all into quitting alcohol or an opiate or narcotic. And instead, now they're dying out from a nicotine addiction because their treatment, the same people trying to get them healthy.
Yeah.
That's unacceptable to me. I think that we have to wipe out addiction, and wiping out addiction is not trading it. So to anybody in treatment, if you recommend or if you allow nicotine within your facility, you recommend it to your patients, shame on you. Please turn that around because it definitely does affect a lot of people.
If you're interested in learning more about Be Well and the behavioral health wellness environments for living and learning, check out our website at bhwell.uky.edu. Thanks for tuning into the Be Well vlog, where behavioral health is our priority. See you next time.